Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me out, and I don't want to get in too much on like backstory and stuff, but I've been training people on a huge array of levels for 15 years now, and everywhere from world champion Olympic lifters and CrossFit Games athletes to moms that are trying to stay in shape after their third kid, to grandpas who want to, be able to play with their grandkids as long as possible, or people that are coming out of big time injuries and car wrecks and all kinds of different stuff like that. And so what I'm hoping I can show for you guys today is just ways that we can incorporate different fitness strategies, combining kind of like the science behind strength conditioning and programming with like the mental psychological effects of like having fun, enjoying the process, seeing results, and understanding that we can't devote our whole life to being a professional athlete. Right? All of us have jobs. We all have other stuff to do, families to go back to, houses to keep clean, stuff like that. We need to make sure that we keep the balance. So getting into this, what I really want us to understand is this fitness talk is about a journey, right? This fitness is a journey. It's not like a destination. Like one day I'm going to be really fit and then I'm done with it, right? And at different points in my life, I might try to maintain where I'm at. I might understand, hey, I just had a kid, so I'm going to take a step back and maybe not be as fit and be able to devote some attention to other things, but I kind of still get the low-hanging fruit that I can so that I can maintain as high a level as possible. And so we're going to talk about this whole process as the journey, not the destination. And, we need to be able to define fitness in order so that we can all talk about it, the same way. And so there's really 3 definitions that I want to give you guys. And I think all 3 of them apply to everyone, but maybe one of them will speak more to you than the others. And so the first one is this sickness, wellness, fitness continuum. And basically what I'm trying to say is that if we measure any of these metrics, bone density, muscle mass, blood pressure, triglycerides, like any of those, there's certain numbers that are really poor that would put us in like the sickness realm, right? Where we would be needing, medical attention. We would be looking at getting prescriptions and different stuff to fix it. If we can start progressing and our goal be the fitness side of it, so numbers that are really good, we can end up somewhere in that wellness realm, which is really kind of the sweet spot. This is the old concept of, aim for the moon, and even if you miss, you land upon the stars kind of thing. So we're going to do stuff that sets us up for that fitness being our big goal, but as long as we're in the wellness side, we're doing really well. Right, in all these different metrics. And there's 100 other ones we can talk about, just as long as we're pushing ourselves towards that fitness side, we're doing good. So that's definition 1. Definition number 2 is this living a larger life. And this might speak to you different than other people. It might mean that you can, do some sweet hobbies and really physical activities that you enjoy doing. You could jump out of airplanes or go on long bike rides or whatever your thing is. It might mean just waking up and feeling better, having more energy throughout the day, being able to tackle life's challenges. It might mean you're playing with your grandkids long into life and living independently far longer than your peers. Right? All those are living a larger life. And then definition number 3, which we can't get too far into, this is a PG situation, but everyone wants to look better naked. That's really all our goals. That's all I'm going to talk about there. We're going to move on. So, load versus capacity. What we need to understand is that there's kind of some different strategies and how people will tackle their day. And what I want to show here is how we prioritize our day and what it, in a really poor situation, it would lead to injury. But it could also just be that we, are slowly decreasing our fitness levels. We don't feel as good, and we plateau out. So let's talk about one day over here on the left. So let's say, last night I needed to go watch a t-ball tournament because my kids are playing in it. So that would be like kids PM sports, right? I stay up late. I'm doing that kind of stuff. I'm not able to really prioritize what I need to do in the evening. So I get home late. My spouse wants to watch some Netflix. So we watched 3 episodes of Love Island on Netflix, and some binging late into the night. I wake up the next morning. I have poor sleep quality, right? I'm not feeling good. I go in there and I'm trying to get a quick breakfast. So I hammer some Pop-Tarts on my way to work. And then, I get to work and Need to stay hydrated, so I drink 3 Dr. Peppers right throughout the day. Obviously, there's this work stress, big project due, so I'm running around all day, focusing on that, skip lunch. And then at the end of the day, it's like, okay, I need to do a workout. I'm going to go to the gym. My buddy's doing one. It's 5 rounds of a 400-meter run and some kettlebell swings, which, if you guys know, kettlebell swings, you're just like hinging over and kind of using your glutes. Say, I get there late, my buddy's ready to go, so I rush into it, and sure enough, in the middle of this workout on round 4, my back kind of gets tweaked, and now my back hurts. And I'm limping around for the next day. I go to the doctor, and the doctor says, hey, well, what happened? And I say, I hurt my back doing kettlebell swings. I mean, that's partly true, but partly not true, right? Yes, we hurt our back doing kettlebell swings, but we also did all these things that led us to have too much capacity or too much load in for our capacity, right? If we could have mitigated some of these other stressors below, we wouldn't have got hurt doing the kettlebell swings. So let's take that strategy and maybe let's clean it up a little bit. We'll redo it. So I can't take out kids' PM sports. You need to go to your kids' games. That's part of life. That's going to be a stressor that's in there. It's worth it for us. But I can take out the binging Netflix. So instead of that, we take our phones off, an hour before bed. We make sure we don't eat or drink right before we're going to sleep, and we get some good quality sleep in there. And then we get up in the morning and eat a healthy breakfast. That means a lot for different people. I'm not going to get too deep into nutrition for you guys because I think that's really, some people do great on all kinds of different strategies. Some people need to really be all 100% in with macros. Some people can do keto. They do all kinds of stuff. That's really your thing. There's a lot of different ways to be successful in it. But we'll just say we had a healthy breakfast. We did proper hydration, right? We drank our 8 ounces of water 8 times, 8 cups throughout the day. And then work stress, again, is still going to be there, right? I still have that project due. Still need to make it happen. But now I can go do this workout at the end of the day. I feel good, right? I'm able to keep up with my buddy. Maybe I get there 15 minutes early and actually warm up, do some of our structure work, which we're going to talk about later. And I even have some time at the end of this for a little extra family time. So now I jump on the trampoline with my kids after work because it's way under my capacity. When it's like this, now over time, you're going to notice that my capacity actually goes up and I continue to progress. So now the next day, I can even fit more in that window, a daily window. And so this is what we're trying to maintain. This is really where I think fitness is for the everyday person, right? I don't think it's running a mile in 4 minutes or bench pressing 350 pounds. It's can you continue to progress and put stuff like this in and prioritize things that are important in your life? I doubt if any of us said, is Dr. Pepper the most important thing in your life, you would raise your hands. But over here, Dr. Pepper, was one of the big contributing factors that led to us hurting our back that now changes our life, right? Okay, questions about that? Load versus capacity?
Well, I have a question about workout AM or PM.
I don't think are you wondering which one's better or worse? I think whatever fits your schedule. I would worry about depending on the workout, getting really intense stuff right before I go to bed, just because I'm kind of trying to, calm down. So we'll talk about lactic training or anaerobic training in a second. I wouldn't do those before I go to bed. But aerobic or structure sessions, which we're also going to talk about, I think you could do that before bed. Cool? Keep the questions coming too. Forgot to say that. If you guys ever have questions, raise your hand. All right, so getting kind of geeky into the programming, and exercise physiology, this is going to be our fitness pyramid. So we need to have a big base of the pyramid in order to see continual results. So the most important things are always down at the bottom. So we're going to start down there. And we're starting with structure and balance. And what I'm talking about with structure and balance is, do I have the muscle mass in my joints to be able to hold good positions? Okay? We'll get even geekier with it, but there's really 3 big benefits of the structure and balance. One of them is longevity. So if I maintain good structure and balance, I'm going to be able to protect my joints and avoid injuries for a long period of time. The next one is going to be performance. So now I'm talking about sprinting, lifting, doing things efficiently. If I can create the right tension in my system, then I'm able to show my explosion, my strength so much better, right? Think about someone who's like real uncoordinated trying to jump high. Uncoordinated to me just means they're not flexing the correct muscles. So if I can get them to flex the correct muscles, now they're able to show their actual explosiveness. And then metabolism. So we need to understand that lean muscle mass increases your metabolism. And the higher your metabolism, the more fat you burn throughout the day. So there's a direct correlation between muscle mass and body fat percentage. If you take nothing else away from this little lecture, take away that as we get older and we try to be fit or get back into fitness, our number one goal is building and maintaining muscle mass. If we can do that, it sets us up for success on all kinds of other things. Okay, let's talk about tracking structure and balance. So there's two different ways I like to do it, and for you to think about it. One of them is by movement patterns. So what I'm talking about are like push-pull. There's a bunch of these, but the simple ones are push-pull, hinge, squat, carry. So I'm saying if I'm doing pressing movements, I should do the same amount of pulling movements. If I'm doing a hinging pattern, I want to do the same amount of a squatting pattern, right? I want to be doing carries, single arm carries, front rack carry, different stuff that keeps my system strong. If I do all those things, there's kind of a sweet spot in there where now I get better at all of it. If I only did pressing, like I only cared about pressing, or I only cared about squatting, then those movements aren't going to get as good because I have other ones that are holding me back, right? I'm not building the whole system. The whole system needs to progress. Okay, another way to think about this is actually muscle and joint specific. So in a certain joint, I want all the muscle groups around that joint to be equally strong. I think the best example of this for you guys is like a bad example would be if you ever see dudes who love to bench press and want their pecs to be big, so they do all this stuff in the mirror and they kind of walk around like this. So they've done so much bench press that now their upper back and all their pulling muscles are really weak and tight, and they like really can't get their hands over their head and definitely can't do any big sets of strict pull-ups and stuff, right? I need to have a correlating strength with my vertical and horizontal pressing, with my vertical and horizontal pulling, with my single leg hinging, with my single leg squatting, and all that different stuff. Okay, that's very important. So we're going to demo that now, all as a group. Let's all stand up. Oh, yes, you didn't know. So if I have good structure and balance, it keeps me safer. I would think the best example of this that's going to relate to you guys is low back pain. When people have low back pain, they have a tendency to focus a lot on their low back. But they don't realize that their hips are actually a huge player in keeping your back in a good position. And so what I want you to do right now is just try to bend your knees a little bit, stick your butt out a lot, and hinge over where your belly button and your sternum stay the same distance apart. So this would be a bad example, like this kind of pooping dog look. That's not good. This is a good example. That's single leg, or that's double leg hinging. Now I want you to try, this is the tough one. Balance on one leg. I want you to try to do that same thing just on one leg. It's way harder. Try to keep your hips square. Try to keep your chest square. You can put a hand on the table. Please no one fall. A lot of us say like, oh, I have bad balance. Remember, that's just saying that the muscles that are in charge of holding that hip in a good position, stabilizing us, structure, right, one of them is not firing correctly, or a couple of them aren't firing in unison. You guys did really good, so now I have to take you up to the pro level. Okay, get a little distance on this one. So the pro level, I do the same little hinge over like this. My chest is pointing to the ground. Look at now how I'm going to rotate. My chest is going to point towards the wall, and then I'm going to rotate back down. Oh no, I had a bad example. So I'm going to do these. Gosh, if you can do like 3 of them, really smooth and controlled. These are called hip airplanes. If you feel really uncoordinated in this, most people are like that. This is tough. If you can do that though, that's telling me that we have the good stability, our structure and balance in that hip that'll take pressure off our low back. We need those muscles firing so that when I go down to pick stuff up, or I'm throwing things in the back of my truck, or I'm picking up my kid, right, I can actually use my hip muscles to stabilize versus just my low back. So if I have good range of motion, good stability, that keeps my joints healthy. Okay, everybody can sit back down. That's enough work for the day.
Suggest like those as like a workout to help build that.
Oh yeah. There's 100 different variations. You know, who does a really good job of this is like Pilates stuff. Pilates does a ton of like single leg holds and, you know, their position work and all the stuff they're doing on there is really good for especially hip stability. You can do the same thing with your shoulders. But yeah, like hip airplanes, those 90-90 rotations, there's all kinds of different ones you can do. Probably 1,000 different things on YouTube. But just knowing that if you have, you know, a low back pain, that doesn't mean that's necessarily where the issue is. Right? You might have an all-American low back, but your hips are like a, you know, child. And so we have to build our hip strength, and then now suddenly we take pressure off our back. And that's what structure and balance is really about. Yes, we can talk about it with like bodybuilding and all those kind of things, for sure, but really it's just about maintaining that whole system so that our body performs and feels as good as possible. We have to do twice the work, especially like low back stuff, when we're doing what all day? Right. So sitting stuff is, you know, have you ever heard that sitting is the new smoking? So, you know, maintaining like that hip range of motion and activation is really important if we're sitting all day. Okay. Structure now, let's move on to aerobic capacity. When aerobic capacity, I'm talking about using oxygen as a fuel source. So this is long, most people think about it in just long distance running, right? They think aerobic capacity, immediately long distance runner, which is kind of the case, but there's 100 other ways to do it. We could bike, we can ski, we can do mixed modal stuff, you can swim. But the main thing is that we're using oxygen as a fuel source. And so we're gonna go back to like our old school physiology, and I'm going to show you. This is the craziest graph I have all day, I promise. It won't get any wilder than this. These are the 3 energy systems that your body uses to produce energy, right? ATP is like your energy sources. So this red one over there is the phosphogenic. Notice it's really high power output, right? You can be explosive, you can lift super heavy weights, but it runs out really fast. The blue one is your glycolytic pathway, which people call your anaerobic system. That peaks at like 30 seconds. When you really train it, you can get it out to like a minute. It's, you know, kind of high power, but more enduring than the phosphogenic, than the red one. Now, what we're talking about now is this aerobic capacity. That's the green one. So it's not a lot of power, but man, you can hold it for a long time, right? Marathon runners, right? They're using the oxygen as a fuel source. They're doing long aerobic training. There's really 2 great ways to develop aerobic capacity. Oh, sorry, I forgot one more graph. Lactate threshold. When you're doing this kind of training, think about your exercise intensity and your lactate level. I'm just talking about like the burn in your muscles. That transition from green to red right there is your lactate threshold. So when we're doing aerobic training, we should be under that lactate threshold. Like you shouldn't feel like I'm getting sick, I'm about to throw up, I'm about to bonk out, right? We're trying to stay in control right there. Okay, 2 ways to improve it. Number 1 is pacing work. And what I'm talking about is negative splits. Let's imagine that we wanted to have a great time today, so we all went out to the track and we're going to run 2 miles. Okay, I'm sure all of y'all know it's a 400-meter lap. So there's 8 laps in a 2 mile. All right, so lap 1 we run it in like 3 minutes. And then lap 2, we run it in 2:55. And then lap 3, 2:53. And we get a little bit faster each lap. That's what negative splits are. I start sustainable, and then I maintain that the whole time. The inverse of it, so not negative splits, would be I ran my first lap at 2:20, blew up, and then I suffered for the next 7 laps at like a 3:30 pace, dying and stopping, and that's not how we train our aerobic capacity. That's like threshold training, which is not sustainable. Like we can't do that for a long period of time. So you don't have to do this just on running, right? We could do this a ton of different ways. You could do it on a stationary bike where you go like a minute at a certain RPM and then you try to increase it for the next minute and you just move it up. And maybe week 1 you try to make it 10 minutes. And then week 2 you try to make it 12 minutes. And eventually we're trying to get to where we can go for 20 or 30 minutes, increasing our pace. There's also ways to do it with like mixed modal training. So here's an example that we would use at the gym. Would be 5 rounds for time, 20 calorie bike, 20 of those kettlebell swings we talked about earlier, 20 air squats, and you try to just get faster each round. So if your first round takes you like 3 minutes, next round you try to be a little bit faster and a little bit faster and a little bit faster. So you're like kind of timing each round. If each round gets faster, then I know you're staying in that aerobic capacity, that you're using oxygen as a fuel source. So that's strategy 1 for improving aerobic capacity. Strategy 2 are these sustainable intervals. When I'm saying intervals, I'm talking about like work to rest ratio. Let's go back to the track. Instead of running 2 miles straight, we're going to do 8 400s. So it takes us, now we're able to go a little bit faster because we get to rest. So it takes us 2:30 to run our first lap, and then we rest 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And then we do it again. We rest. We do it again. We rest. So we're doing equal work to rest ratios. So if I work out for 3 minutes, I rest for 3 minutes. If I work out for 1 minute, I rest for 1 minute. And I can kind of increase my power output a little bit on that. But as long as my rounds are sustainable, meaning that they're consistent, we'll say within like a 5 plus or minus second deviation, then now I know I'm staying in that aerobic capacity. Okay? Threshold training, again, which we're not wanting to do, would be we like blow it out on the first round, and then we aren't able to recover in the amount of time we rested, and we can't maintain that pace, which would be not ideal. And I'm afraid that that's how most people start their training. They think, like, okay, I need to go and get in shape. My first round, I'm going out as hard as I can, and then I'm just going to suffer all these other rounds. And what they don't realize is that's actually decreasing their results because they're not training in one of those energy systems. We're bouncing around to all of them when I want to have dedicated training in aerobic capacity. An example of that one would be like this, where we do 6 rounds, 3 minutes of work, 3 minutes of rest. It starts with like 50 jump ropes, and then we do 20 step-ups onto a box, and we do max effort burpees in time remaining. Once that 3 minutes hits, we rest for 3 minutes, we try to do it again. So obviously, I don't want to go out and do 40 burpees on the first round and then be crushed, right? I want to be like consistent. Maybe I get like 20 every round. That would be better than getting 40 on the first round and then 7 on the last one. Okay? Questions about improving aerobic capacity? Again, you could do this swimming. You could do this on a stationary bike. You could do this on a sled. There's all kinds of different ways. All right. If we have structure and balance, and then we have aerobic capacities, I think you should start moving on and trying some other stuff. Calisthenics is the next one we're going to talk about. Most people, when they're getting into fitness, get a ton of results in the aerobic capacity realm, right? The first like 6 months to a year, they're just loving it. You know, they're seeing results in body composition, they're feeling better, they look better, all this is going really well. And so they try to just keep chasing that same aerobic capacity feeling. This is where we get into like the death by cardio problem, where now you're training like you're about to run an Ironman, but you never run an Ironman, right? You've got results from doing 30-minute runs for the first 6 months, so now you do 45-minute runs, and then you're seeing less results, so now you do hour runs, and pretty soon you're running before work, during lunch, and then after work to try to get the same amount of results as you were like the first 6 months. I want those people to move on, still do aerobic capacity stuff, still have some structure training, but let's move on to some calisthenics. When I'm talking about calisthenics, I'm talking about like push-ups, pull-ups, single leg squats, right? All these like body weight movements, right, that we can do a bunch of, okay? The issue with this is some people will start and say, well, Navy SEALs will do 150 push-ups in a workout for time. I'm going to go ahead and do 150 push-ups for time in a workout. And then they get hurt and don't understand why, and they hate it, and they're sore for months, right? So there's some ways we need to progress through this also. So when we're designing workouts specifically for like calisthenics, we have to prioritize the structure minimums. So just like we were talking about being able to like press and pull, right? My horizontal pressing and pulling, my strength around the joint. If I don't have all that, if I can't do pal raises, if I can't do curls, if I can't do tricep press downs, I have no business trying to do 150 push-ups, right? I need to get those structure minimums in first, and then I can try to progress in some of these calisthenic tests. And then the next priority is going to be muscle endurance. So I would, instead of saying, okay, I've got my structure minimums, now I'm going to try my set of 150 push-ups for time, I want to be able to do like 25 unbroken and then rest a lot. and then see if I can do 20 unbroken and then rest a lot. Like I want to do these max sets and build the capacity in a max effort setting, right? That could be for the single leg squats. It could be for, dips or whatever. In our scenario, we're talking about these 150 push-ups. Now, once I get to where I can get like 35, 40 strict push-ups in a row, now then I can go ahead and try the density. So now I'm talking about 150 as fast as I can. I do a set of 25, I shake it out. I do a set of 20, I shake it out. By the end, I'm doing 5s, I'm dying. But at least I have the structure minimums, and I have this max set, the muscle endurance, to be able to do it, stay healthy, and get results out of it. Okay, so let's put that in a scenario now where we're doing some push-ups. Don't get too geeky on this because there's, a lot of different things we could look into. Obviously, different movements, might have some different strength minimums. But if I'm looking at push-ups, my strength structure that I'm looking for are like scapular control, right? Can I maintain a good position? This is a horrible way to do push-ups. So if I can't hold my shoulder blades down and use those muscles to maintain that position, then I'm in trouble, right? I need to be able to do external rotations. I need to be able to do the pal raises. I need to have the flexibility to have good internal rotation, to have range of motion in my pecs so that I don't get hurt, right? I need to have that activation so that I can stay, even with my shoulder blades down, even when I'm deep into it and I'm dying, I never get to here, right? Once I have those structure minimums, now I can go look at this max endurance set. So notice that I'm looking for 20 inverted rows because that's the opposite of doing push-ups. So I want to be able to do max sets on the inverse of the movement. Just like we talked about earlier with our push, pull, hinge, squat, carry, I need to have both sides to be really good. 20 true push-ups, that's just, can I do one set of 20 without stopping? Can I do a double arm bar hang for 90 seconds? So I'm just talking about just hanging from the bar and holding up there for 90 seconds. That tells me that now I have the control and the strength in all those little stabilizer muscles that I could try some big sets. I hope you guys look at this and say like, gosh, I don't know if I could do that. Well, good. You shouldn't try to do 150 push-ups unbroken either. This is like how we're progressing into this, right? And then now number 3, I'll charge the gymnastics density. So really looking at how we reset. I want you to see this one at the bottom here strongly correlates to aerobic capacity. If you don't have that aerobic capacity in before you start doing stuff, it could get to a point where you could do more push-ups, but you're just so tired, like energy system-wise, that you can't continue on. So that's why the aerobic capacity is below this on our fitness pyramid. This is when we're getting kind of geeky with some of this stuff. Questions about that? Here we go, improving it. Sometimes you can combine this density sessions, the calisthenic density sessions, with some aerobic training. And so now you're getting like both the results. This is what we try to do a lot in the gym. One, because it's more fun than just doing a set of 20 push-ups every 3 minutes for 15 minutes, right? That's not super exciting. And I'm only getting results in that calisthenic kind of area. But if I mix it up with a workout like this, now I can do calisthenic results with my muscle density, and I can do aerobic training at the same time. So this is 10 true push-ups, so those really good ones, run a 200, 10 true push-ups, row a 200. And I do that for 15 minutes straight. It's really that the running and rowing are just like placekeepers, and the push-ups are kind of the density sessions. So now I'm getting to work on recharging my push-ups while I'm doing my aerobic capacity work. Would we want this to be sustainable in that we would do consistent rounds about the same amount of time, or do we want to blow out the first round and then just survive? So yeah, sustainable, right? I'm wanting each round to kind of look the same. And that's from me watching you do it. When you're doing it, you might think like round 1 feels okay, and then round 5, oh my God, I hate my life, right? Inside it hurts, but from me looking, you're still in control, you're still moving through, right? Everything is nice and steady, okay? So that's combining the gymnastics density or the calisthenic density with our aerobic sessions. Okay, questions on the calisthenic stuff? Okay, so right here, guys, is kind of where we're starting to get into really getting high results. A lot of people, when we get older, we're not playing sports and stuff anymore, we give up on like this sprinting concept, so the anaerobic concept. You get the biggest bang for your buck in this phase. If you can get through all the other stuff and set yourself up for success here, this is really where you see the high metabolism, the muscle mass, the quick results are in this sprinting phase. So when I talk about sprinting, I want us to understand that these sprinters don't really work out that much. Like, you'd be surprised at how low their total weekly volume is, fitness-wise, but when they go all out with everything they have. And there's a reason sprinters look like sprinters. It's because they do sprints all the time, right? Noah Lyles up there, he is not running for 1 mile straight, ever. Like, he might jog a 200, jog maybe a 400, that's it. And he's getting stretched, he's starting to do his fast twitch stuff, and he's sprinting. That's what he does. And he's super jacked, as you can tell. This one is that glycolytic phase, that blue one right there, the anaerobic capacity. So what we're wanting to do is teach us over time how to hold that power for longer and longer. So most people fairly trained can peak for like 30 seconds. Like, that's the longest they can hold their max anaerobic output. What we're wanting to do is like increase that with training so that maybe we can get out to like 45 seconds or even a minute of going all out. And that just increases our results. You think that's only a few seconds more, but it's a game changer. I pushed this sled up here because it doesn't always have to be doing like actual sprints running. You can do this kind of training tons of different ways. You could do it on a stationary bike. You could do it in a swimming pool. You can do it on a rower. You can do it on a sled like that. There's a lot of different ways to do anaerobic training. It doesn't have to be out on a track running fast. Okay. This one, when we're talking about our lactate level, now we are getting above that threshold, that lactate threshold. So our training for this is going to be up in that realm the whole time. So because of that, we have to have longer recovery sessions. So if I sprint for 20 seconds, I don't recover for 20 seconds. I recover for like 2 minutes and 40 seconds, right? I recover for a long period of time so that when I sprint again, I can go all out each time, right? I'm talking full, everything you got. We'll talk about how to like progress that. So we want to start powerful, so all out as fast as we can go, and then over time we're getting more and more sustainable. So we're trying to go from that 30 seconds to 45 to a minute. So there's a ton of different stages we could pick in this. I'm going to give you just kind of a really bland example of progressing anaerobic training. Stage 1, we're doing 10 rounds of 15 seconds on, 245 off. Let's imagine that this is on a stationary bike. So we have you guys ever been on like an assault bike or echo bike? They're horrible, right? The hands that move at the same time. So 3, 2, 1, go. You literally give it everything you got. Like, you're trying to break the machine. I want your hairs flying around. There's some spit coming out. Like, your eyes are closed. Like, it's everything you have. 15 seconds, you see how many calories you can get. Everything you got. And then you rest until the next 3-minute mark. You do that 10 times. That's a really good anaerobic session. And maybe we do that for like a month, and we're starting to see better results. I'm getting faster and faster. So now I'm going to progress it. When I say for a month, I'm talking about you do like one of these a week. Like, you do not do this every day. This is like a 1, maybe 2 times a week kind of thing. Okay, and then stage 2, so for the next month, we're going to go 7 rounds, 40 seconds on, 230 off. So notice that the work time increases. The amount of time I'm trying to go all out gets longer, but also my rest time gets longer. Because of that, I'm going to decrease the amount of rounds I'm doing. So maybe I do that for a month or 2. I start seeing better results there. I'm holding my pace the whole time. Now I'm going to progress it into stage 3. We're going to go 4 rounds of a minute on, a minute off. This is spicy. Like, people think like, oh, I see this, 4 rounds. That's only 4 minutes of work for my whole workout. I promise you're not going to feel like that after. We had, one of the fittest guys I have in our gym. I mean, you'd think he's like about to get on a show to bodybuild at any time. I had him come in and do a workout one time, which was literally 30 seconds all out on the assault bike, rest 4.5 minutes, 30 seconds all out again. He laid outside for like an hour, average, just because he really was going all out, and he was super strong and really powerful. And he got a lot of results out of that little workout, just going crazy. Like, if you can get it to where your body's able to sprint, I mean, the gains are huge. So this is really kind of our sweet spot of where we're trying to get. And then maybe you do that for a few months, and then now we try this stage 4, 2 minutes on, 7 minutes off. We're only doing this like one time, maybe 2 times, and then we're going to recycle and go back through the cycle. Because I promise you, if you do 2 minutes on the bike, all out, 7 minutes off, do it again, you're not going to want to come back and do that again next week. So we might hit this and like test it and then recycle and try again. And again, you don't have to just do it on a bike or just running. We do it with like tons of energy system training where that's like Fran workouts for us. So barbell thrusters, pull-ups, burpees are that kind of anaerobic threshold training. We are careful with it. We don't do it every day. We don't even do it twice a week. We do it like once a week because it is so potent. Questions on that one? These next 2 categories I'm going to talk about, but I want you to understand that it probably applies to about 2% of athletes, or I should say of like people. You know, I'm only talking about high-end people who are really chasing performance. Now, we touch on them some, mainly because I think it's fun and you do get a little bit out of it. But unless you're trying to, you know, like go to the Olympics or you're trying to beat your, you know, high school bench press record or something. I mean, this is just stuff to kind of understand, but this isn't what I would geek out about for my normal population. CP system, that's the red phase. So we're talking about creatine phosphate system is being really explosive, but it only lasts like 5 seconds. This is when you see like Olympic lifters or long jumpers. That's what they're using is creatine phosphate, is the creatine that's in your muscles. You're able to use it once and then it takes like hours to recharge. That's why Olympic lifters will literally do one lift and then sit there for 10 minutes and then do another lift, sit there for 10 minutes because they're working that CP system. Here we go. So a typical test for us, if we're looking at CP battery, which is how much you recharge, is you have 8 minutes to find a 1 rep max power clean. For those who weren't meatheads when you're growing up, power clean is just taking a bunch of weight from the floor, just catching it on your shoulders. So I see what's the most amount I can do. And then after that, I take 90% of that, which is a lot. And I see how many reps at 90% I can get in 8 minutes. Our standards that we use on that for guys is 22 and for girls is 26. Usually because guys are able to use more testosterone, so their part A is a little bit higher relative to their body weight than girls are. If your number is under that, so we're getting less reps than we're wanting to, I tell them that I need them to work on their CP battery. If they're getting more, If they're getting more reps than that, which some do, like I've had people get like 40, it tells me that their part A isn't very good, and so I have them work on their absolute strength. Does this apply to most people? No, mostly competitors. So I talk about this with competitors most of the time. But it's fun to play with, it's fun to know, and you know, it helps you kind of like give you some stuff to work on, which keeps things exciting. And this is where we get back to kind of like the, you know, sociology side of fitness, where can I keep people having fun and, you know, group settings, having a good time. And then the last one we're going to talk about is skills. This would be like gymnastic skills, body weight movement skills, even like some people may be running for them. Right? If you really want to run an Ironman, you'd be surprised at how much time you can cut just learning like a pose method of running. When I say that, I mean not letting your heel be out in front and like slam your foot into the ground every time you're taking a step. If you can learn to have like soft knees and your foot hit at or behind your center of gravity, now you just don't beat yourself up as much as you're running all those miles. Right? Can you do double unders when you do jump rope? You know, there's a ton of different like skills for different sports, and when we're focusing on those, I want to set it up where part one is our structure work. Let's take like jump rope. If I'm wanting to learn to do double unders, which is where my rope goes underneath me twice, right? If I don't have like the strength and structure in my ankles, I don't have the you know, ability to be able to jump that much, then what am I doing working on double unders, right? I need to build that stability in the system. And then number two is movement patterns. So again, if we're talking jump rope, can I actually like spin my hands as I'm going? Can I time that up with my jump to be consistent? What's my breathing pattern like as I'm doing that stuff? And then I tie it all together with timing. Now, am I doing it all at the same time so that it's consistent? right? And that, again, works for all kinds of stuff. You could say this about like someone's golf swing, right? Golf swing is a skill. Do I have the strength and structure to be able to like rotate my hips and get full range of motion out of stuff and keep my positions really well? Now then, do I have the movement pattern? So am I coming through correctly? Am I learning how to rotate my hips right? And then now timing it, putting it all together. I mean, that applies to really any different athletic movement that you're doing. Chasing efficiency is the big thing there. Are we chasing efficiency in our skills and sport development? Okay, so I built this lecture out because one time I had someone come up to me, and he was just starting off, real young, kind of hard charger, was a little bit out of shape, taking a few years off since college. And he asked me a question, I'll never forget it. He came up to the desk, he was really focused on it, and he said, Brice, I need to know what's the fastest way for me to get in great shape. And I said, join the Marines. And then he was like, I don't really want to. So it's really not the fastest way. He didn't truly want to know the fastest way. He wanted to know like the most efficient way to be able to get in shape with his own current lifestyle. And so that's really what this kind of pyramid came from, is how can you prioritize where you are and where you want to be with like the other aspects you have in your life and be able to make good decisions in like that fitness realm. So structure and balance, if we're going to say what we should do going forward now, how do I like prioritize that in my life? Think about just lifting some weights, right? The push, pull, hinge, squat, carry stuff. Doesn't have to be like heavy work. You can do isometric work, which is just like pausing and holding stuff, literally like wall squats, lunge holds, right? Planks, all that kind of stuff is very valuable. Single leg, single arm, lateral movements, like not everything needs to be just forward, right? We need to be able to do like side to side stuff, lateral band walks, side plank actions, like all that kind of stuff to build that structure and balance. If you feel pretty good about that, you've spent some time in it, now we want to move on. We don't stop doing the weightlifting. We now maybe just decrease that a little bit and then add in our aerobic sessions. This is where the pacing work comes in. Remember, we're looking for 15 to 30 minutes steady, right, where we don't blow up and tank off on our power output, where we maintain, and then we're doing the interval work to rest ratios. I would say if you're going to do that, you might do one of those each week. And you still have a little weightlifting in. That could be like, you could literally get a ton of results out of just these two things. And that might be like 2 pacing sessions or 2 aerobic sessions with some weightlifting mixed in. Some of us will want to move on a little bit, so now we're going to go into the calisthenic side. So push-ups, pull-ups, box jumps, rope climbs, some of that kind of stuff. And remember, we got to go structure minimums first, and then endurance, and then density when we're getting into that. And then when we're really looking to chase some hardcore results and we have a sweet fitness show coming up, now we can start throwing some sprints in there. So thinking about hill sprints, bikes, sled, swimming, 1, maybe 2 times a week where you're going like really hard, all out. And remember, that's where you do a little bit of work and a ton of rest. You try to increase your output or the amount of time you can hold that output over time. 98% of us are going to stop right here. If you really are into it and we go to a CP system, now we're looking at 85 to 90% of our maxes and how fast we recharge in between those maxes. And then we're looking at structure, movement patterns, and timing for the skill sessions. So going back to our fitness is a journey concept, this is just sort of a blueprint of like, okay, what can I do to start incorporating some of this into my life? I hope I did gave you more examples and didn't just confuse you. So this is where I would stop and ask if we have questions and how I could further clarify any of this.
So what should a typical week look like? Like Monday, upper body, like how do we like break it up?
I think that matters more about what your like other life stressors are, like what your work schedule's like, what you need to do at home, what you enjoy doing. There is definitely no cookie cutter like perfect answer for that. Like you don't need to do, chest and tries on Monday, back and bis on Tuesday, legs on Wednesday, and that's the only way you can get results. If you liked doing, like a HIIT class on Mondays, and there was one that worked for your schedule, you could go to that. And then maybe Tuesday is like your aerobic session. So you do like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to, get on my bike and I'm going to try to maintain a pace for a 30-minute bike ride. And then I'm going to take Wednesday off. Thursday, there's like a body pump, kind of weightlifting session somewhere that you like doing. So you do that. And then, okay, Friday is going to be my swimming intervals. Like, there's so many different ways you could do it, based on your current situation and your schedule. Did I answer that or make it more confusing?
I have a question. For someone who just really hates push-ups,
Why?
I can kill a wall push-up,
Oh, yeah?
but just an actual push-up, what would be an alternative to that?
Do you have really light dumbbells? You can do like light dumbbell bench. You could do that. Or tricep press downs. Like with a,
Take the weight and you pull it.
it's like a band or a cable, and you could do some like tricep stuff. Or you could do like flies. Or maybe you just say, I hate push-ups, but I'm going to do like vertical pressing and not worry about push-ups. I mean, are you planning on entering a push-up competition?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, then maybe doing,
On the wall.
yeah, then maybe doing a whole bunch of push-ups isn't really a goal for us. But if you wanted to do like, you're talking about hands elevated ones, like if I did some right here on this, that's going to move. But, yeah, you could do a bunch of those kind of push-ups. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe if you can do 30 hands elevated, that's better than doing like 3 really poor kind of bad form ones on the floor. Yeah. I would say remember, because that like muscle density and staying in a good position is more important than, okay, you can do push-ups from the floor kind of thing. Yeah. What else? No one wants to tell me their bench press? Max?
What's that? What'd you say?
What's our bench press, Max?
Oh, well, I was going to say I always ask my professional Emily, but thought I'd ask. No, I appreciate what you're talking about here, because I think I'm on the right track, is that at 53, you're shocked. Whenever I go to the gym or whatever, I always joke about saying it's my workout, I'm going to do it how I want to do it. And, they say go do 20 of something and I'll do 10, the best way I possibly can. But I always joke about working on my balance, because whenever I'm 63, 73, 83, whatever, I want to be able to bend over, tie my shoes, get up, and not feel like I'm, lost in space.
Oh, yeah.
And room spinning and everything else. So it's understanding, I think, and I really do appreciate you talking about this, is that it's understanding that 20 years ago I could go up that chart pretty fast, I could do certain things. I can still go up the chart, but not as fast or as many as I could in the past. If that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
So as I got older, I realized.
And exercise. Right. Exercise selection is going to be a big thing with there too. So let's talk about like the sprinting aspect. Like if you go out and do hill sprints, we're a little bit older, we haven't done them in a while, there's a high chance we like tear Achilles or pull our hamstring. But we can get on that Echo bike I talked about, the stationary bike, and go crazy and have really low risk of injury. Or swim sprints and stuff. Like there's some things that we can pick to do that are still all out, but don't necessarily put as much demands on like soft tissue as some other things. Yeah. So I mean, I want to make sure we all understand I'm not trying to get you to be professional athletes in this. I want you to just see where you're at and like where, maybe you want to be with whatever your current life stressors and schedule is like, and just being able to get the most results. Because I don't want you to, think like, okay, well, I could only do this and I'm going to get in like great shape. Just doing like some, 3-pound, hour-long like structure sessions. It'll work a little bit, but not forever. Just like the death by cardio stuff doesn't work forever, right? You have to kind of like add in some of those things. But I would say if you stay within the bottom 4, you can continue to progress that for a long, long, long time. I'm talking like 20 years in, and not even really have to worry about the other stuff, and not spend just a ton of time working out, because we don't have unlimited amount of time for that. Okay, what's your bench press? Ah, dang it.
I do have a question though.
Yeah.
So earlier you were talking about like doing different things in between to kind of make it not so boring or whatever.
Yeah. That's adding aerobic capacity in with the structure.
Do you recommend that when you're doing like weights? Like for example, what I do, like today is my day. Well, I'll do bench press, leg extensions, squats, and I'll do some dumbbell raises and stuff like that. But the way I do it, and I don't know if it's wrong or not, is I'll go and then I'll go straight to my leg extensions, and then I'll go to some dumbbell moves, and then I'll do my squats, and just kind of intermix.
That's not bad.
That'll be like a set, and I'll go back and do it over again.
How many are you doing? Like 10 to 15 or?
Yeah, 15.
Okay, yeah. So, okay, if I was looking to get max hypertrophy, right, and just get as big as possible, yes, that would be not ideal. I want my leg extensions to be like 20 to 30 reps, and then I'm gonna rest 3 minutes and get like full recovery, and then hit another where like I'm just edging out. My last like 3 or 4 are max, as much pain as I can handle. That's for like max hypertrophy. But I'm guessing that's not what you're after. You're mostly after like a general fitness, so that what you're doing is a great idea, because now you're combining those two, the aerobic sessions with the structure and balance, and so now I'm getting the results out of both of those things. So yeah, I think that's a great one. If you even wanted to like throw in some machine stuff in there, you could do that also. Yeah. That's just talking about like supersetting. What you're asking about is, should I superset my training? And if those general fitness is your results, are your goals, I think that's a great way to do it. And if the gym isn't too busy, you're not taking up 3 machines at one time. Yeah. Okay. We can still ask questions even though Patrick just got here.
I like Pat's idea of skipping push-ups. I like the idea of
I mean,
cutting it out altogether.
just don't skip curls, right? No one's skipping curls in here. Okay, I just want to make sure. I forgot to put that on the top, is curls. Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for listening to me. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any other questions, I'd love to stay and talk with you some more. Your attention was awesome. Thanks, Emily and Pat, for letting me come in. I appreciate you guys. Have a good one.